comedian become a leader in Zelensky. Now we're seeing a leader become a comedian with the statements we just heard about European energy independence being on the horizon. I thought Mark Rutte's statement as head of NATO that Ukraine was winning the war. It's just that the battlefield was running in the wrong direction was the most ludicrous statement from a leader. I would have to put him in second place after what we just heard. Energy independence in Europe by reducing the amount of natural gas and fossil fuels coming from Russia. They're just being diverted through other directions. And I cannot wait for the German investigations and prosecutions into who actually destroyed the Nord Stream pipeline to start reaching into the upper echelons of EU and NATO individuals. By the way, Clarice, I have to say that you always assemble amazing panels of people who are very knowledgeable, know what they're talking about, but also have the strength and character and honesty to tell the truth about these issues. And you've done that once again, I think, with this panel, and I appreciate you making me a part of it. You know, both Conrad and the other panelists, Judy and others, have mentioned the fragile status of these European leaders with their own internal domestic power. Not only have they overreached in terms of trying to expand NATO and EU and created this conflict with Russia needlessly, but whether it's Starmer, whether it's Merz, whether it's Macron, they are all on very thin ice in their own countries. And it is the leaders who are kind of stepping away from the complicity with the EU, whether it's Meloni in Italy, whether it's Orban in Hungary, whether it's Poland continuing to show itself more independent than just towing the political party line of the EU. The leaders that are driving this ongoing conflict are in dire straits politically in their own homes, and I think that President Trump is actually in a strong position. I would point out that I think the economy in the U.S. is poised to be really strong coming into the new year. I think we're going to see interest rates drop, which is going to make housing more affordable, rent more affordable. President Trump is pushing away the flood of illegals that have come into our country, which will again increase the buying power of American citizens who've been supporting the flood of illegals. The big, beautiful bill that cuts taxes and helps re-energize America as an independent producer of fossil fuels is going to kick in starting in January. So I think the U.S. economy is going to improve. So I know there's concerns that the midterm elections could lead to Republican loss of power in the House and the Senate. I think that we will actually gain seats in both because the economy will improve here and people will start feeling the benefits of that. The other point I would make on the politics of this is that it's exactly right that Zelensky is trying to retain power because I think, as Yulia pointed out, he's a dead man politically and perhaps in reality. When this ends, either the Ukrainians are going to take him down or he's going to flee to another country and eventually will pay the price for what he's done. So he's trying to maintain control. And then the military industrial complex, I think I mentioned earlier, has an interest in this war continuing, and the political contributions they make to people on both sides of the political aisle in the U.S. continues to have the Congress push this conflict. People like Senator Lindsey Graham in South Carolina, who was there for the Maiden Revolution, watching it and cheering it along as promises made by the U.S. were broken. You know, our military industrial complex is producing missiles at $2 million a pop to strike targets that are being provided to Ukraine and others, while Russia is using $500 drones. There is no excuse for us to use $2 million missiles to take out a target when a $500 drone would do the same job, other than wanting to keep those industrial businesses in the U.S. and the political contributions flowing into members of Congress and the Senate in positions of power. So again, there's an old adage in American politics, and I think it applies all over the world: follow the money. And again, we get back to why isn't there an audit? Why isn't there accountability of where the money that has gone to Ukraine has actually ended up? Why are we continuing to use weapons that are expensive and not as effective? And on a final point, I would just say that in the Iraq War, a couple of decades ago, that was really a proxy fight between the U.S. military equipment and Russia's military equipment. Iraq was supposedly the fourth or fifth most powerful military in the world, and it did not take long to destroy them because of the advances of U.S. military technology versus what Iraq was using that was provided by Russia. Since that time, Russia has dramatically improved its military technology. This has been a proxy war between NATO and their military weapons and Russia's. And again, NATO's military proxy war has been lost on the battlefield, not just because of the lack of manpower, but a lack of technology and military prowess. So if they wanted a proxy war, they got one. And if they're smart, they'll learn the lessons from this one, that while they denounce Russia as pulling chips out of washing machines to operate their military equipment, they can only lie for so long. And the final point I'll make is, Clarice, Julia, you guys know I do a lot of media in Western Europe, in London in particular, and the hysterics of those who are the TV host in London over the fear that Russia is going to be rolling tanks into Paris and Berlin and London sometime soon if we don't stop Putin in Pokrovsk, if we don't stop him in Kherson, he will be rolling into Europe. And on the other hand, they argue that Russia is not even powerful enough to take Kiev. Which is it? Are they the most powerful military in the world, about ready to roll into Western Europe, or are they ineffective, as we hear as well? And I think, as was pointed out earlier, the idea of taking Kiev would just open up guerrilla warfare. It is not something that Putin or Russia has ever wanted, and they're only pushing ahead, taking more oblasts to get a resolution that ends this. And they have restrained themselves from killing the thousands of Ukrainian soldiers who are surrounded, because their idea is to get to peace, not to engage in the endless carnage. But as long as there is this push for war by Western Europe, by the military industrialists in the U.S., it is hard to see a path to peace coming very quickly.